Hey everyone, it's Mark Hayward here. Today we have another episode of Absolute Business Mindset, where today I'm speaking to Julieanna Hever, who is a plant-based dietitian, author, and speaker. We go deep into her expertise about dietitian, nutrition, and I actually learned some really good ideas on how to structure my diet and a little bit more plant-based than I usually have done previously. She was into arts and theatre when she was younger. She was into a personal trainer. She then became a nutritionist and a dietitian. She has such a wealth of knowledge and is really entrepreneurial. And it was really fascinating to see her developing her ideas, her marketing strategies on being able to be the best nutritionist and dietitian for her clients. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, this is a great interview for you to listen to. And really, if you've got any thoughts or comments, please leave them in the comments below. Equally, if you're enjoying this content, please do give it a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon because these episodes are coming out every week. So please do enjoy it. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. This podcast will interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and people in their careers. We will delve into their journey to success, key life milestones, and go deep into their area of expertise. Get ready to learn from other successes and failures. Today, we have Julieanna Hever. Hever?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, excellent. Who is a plant-based dietitian, author, and speaker. Hello, Julieanna. How are you?
Hello, Mark. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for joining me today on my podcast. The first question that I'm asking people now is, the podcast is called Absolute Business Mindset. What does a business mindset mean to you?
Yes. Well, I wasn't taught about this in graduate school, so I'm still navigating it. But what it's evolved into for me is making sure I can help my clients as best possible and offering them things and ways to service their needs and to help them get results. So it's about like, what's next? What technology do I need to change? What kind of services do I need to offer just to be there and be present and to try to get the best results for my clients?
Thank you. And so we'll talk about technology. We'll talk about your programs as well, so you can tell us about that. So going back to your education, so before you got into nutrition, you did a degree in arts and theatre at the University of California. Why did you choose that?
I had such a roundabout journey towards where I ultimately ended up, but I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm still in Los Angeles, and a lot of us in Los Angeles are into theater and dance and arts and all of that and acting. And of course, I was dragged into that at a very young age. I started dancing, and then I was very interested in theater, and especially Shakespeare. That was my favorite and what I really kind of studied. I went to an arts high school, but along the way, I was told, interestingly, I was told by my dance teacher when I was about 11 years old, and I was in front of all of my dance colleagues. We were in our little ballet class growing up, going through changes that young girls go through. And my teacher called out to me from across the room in front of all of my friends, Julieanna, cut out your snacks. And that was a pivotal moment for me, because then I was like, whoa, what does that mean? So I started diving into weight loss and diet at 11 years old. This was something that just became a prime interest to me. And I wanted to understand it. I wanted to understand body image and all of that stuff, which was, this was a long time ago, not to date myself. So I was on this journey of not only trying to be an actress in Los Angeles, where also I'd have agents tell me, you got to lose a few more pounds for camera, all that kind of thing, which led me to become a personal trainer. And then when I was personal training, my clients started asking me about nutrition right away. And I decided I really wanted to dig in deeper and not to just give answers that I had memorized in a personal training handbook when I was getting certified. I wanted to know why. And so I instantly applied for graduate school in nutrition, and I wanted to become a dietitian. And I wanted to figure out, what are all the secrets? Like, what are all the secrets to like eating well and losing weight and maintaining a healthy weight and all of that. And so kind of one thing led to another. And I ultimately stopped with the acting, but was grateful that I had all that experience, because at the first I was like, what was the point of all that? Like, what a waste of a degree at UCLA. But it ended up helping me because I ended up having my own TV show and doing a lot of speaking and all of that. So it all ended up kind of culminating in a perfect situation where I was able to talk about something I'm so deeply passionate about with the experience and education I had in acting and theater and presenting and speaking and all of that. So kind of all came to a beautiful kind of conclusive means of pursuing my passion.
Yeah, and when I was doing research on you, you say that you bridge the you bridge food, performing, and helping people. So what was like bringing that all together after your master's in nutrition? How did you sort of initially bridge those three different worlds?
Well, it just kind of sort of happened, to be honest. And, along my path to learning and understanding diet and nutrition, I stumbled upon a book by John Robbins called Diet for a New America when I was about 16 years old. And that kind of connected me to this like vegetarian type of lifestyle and this fascination with that element as well. But I was, of course, scared away from pursuing a vegetarian diet just because, the fear of being deficient in certain nutrients and all of that. And so when I got into graduate school and kind of delved into the science behind all of this and being able to look directly at the literature myself and understand, oh, you can get protein from plants, and oh, you can get, iron from plants, but source better. It all kind of culminated there too. So there's like this kind of this coming together of all of those things. And I switched my diet ultimately again when I was an adult after graduate school, when I first had my first daughter, and it changed my health radically. And then I implemented that with my clients. And then I was asked to write a book, and I was asked to do my TV show, and I was asked to be a guest on things like the Dr. Oz show. And so all of that stuff just kind of naturally came together. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I could help. Not only did it completely transform my health, I was able to transform the health of my clients. And so that's where that all bridged together.
Lovely, thank you. And so do you just talk about plant-based diet at now?
Well, I don't really, I like to think of it as I want people to eat more plants. So I'm not like, oh, you have to eat only plants for me to talk to you. That's not what I do. But I also don't try to convince anyone. I gave that up many years ago. Like, if you want to eat healthier, I will love you all the way down. I will help. I do a lot of weight loss. I do a lot of disease management. I've had people reverse their chronic disease every day. Like, I see this, I always say results are typical. So I don't try to convince anyone to do anything, but I will help you, and I will naturally advise you to eat more plants. And so I don't like to like title it. I even try to stay away from those terms. Actually, I just want people to get healthier. I do a lot of weight loss, which could be kind of diet agnostic really, but of course I'm going to advise people to eat more plants because the results are extraordinary.
Okay, we'll get into that. I just want to touch on one thing before we start going into your current programs and TV and your books and stuff like that. So your first role was a personal trainer. You mentioned this just before, just a little bit earlier. And so what did you learn from there? I think it's terrible that 11 years old, someone said to you, you need to lose weight. I think that's atrocious. I think that's a really like body image for girls, especially. I've got two young daughters, so I'm conscious of their thought of what their body feels like and what people's perceptions of. So you said you had that experience, and then that led you into personal training. So what was for you the driver force that exercise and training was going to be the way to make you feel comfortable in yourself and equally create a career or a business from that?
Such a good question, Mark. Thank you. And yes, I have a daughter too. And it's, when I think about it and when I see how it, comes to fruition in these girls' lives and how it really impacted me, it's really deep. And there's a lot of people, the conversations I have with my clients go really, really deep into those sorts of things. And so what happened was, well, I always loved working out and exercise anyway, just because it feels so good. And it's just overall health wise. But in fact, I have recordings on cassette tapes, to date myself, of me training my best friends and my sister. Like, we would do these little workouts. So I was always really kind of into all that because I think it's so much fun. I love exercise. But it was when I was an actress, and my agent told me, you need to, lose weight. Here's my trainer you need to go to. And I was like, oh, a trainer. Okay. So I went to this trainer and I fell in love with training. It's like, oh, I get to help people and I get to exercise all day and I get to learn about the newest types of fitness that, programs and equipment. It was like, I loved it so much. It was kind of like the perfect job for me. Plus I have a crazy amount of energy, especially in the morning. So I was that girl like at 6 a.m. at my client's house, like, come on, we're going to work out and we're going to do this. And, kind of cheerleader-esque. And so I always loved that. But I always thought that if you work out more harder, like everyone thinks, you're going to lose weight. But I realized it wasn't until I uncoupled exercise from weight loss many, many years later that I realized it really doesn't help with weight loss, but it does help with everything else in your life. So it kind of just happened. And then it happened quite quickly that I went immediately to graduate school because I realized that the real element of this and the real details of weight loss and health really comes back to food first.
Yeah, one of my questions for later on, which we can cover now. So you're saying, and I've heard this myself before, that actually, so the question is, what is better for weight loss? Is it nutrition or is it fitness? So what would you say to that question?
100% food. And I have a weight loss support group, which we'll talk about later, but I just got a post in my group saying, oh, Julieanna must get sick of being right all the time because they started exercising and it halved the rate of loss. It halves the rate of weight loss for my clients. My clients lose 0.4 to 0.8 pounds of body fat a day on my program. However, when you add the exercise in, crazy, it sounds insane, especially for someone that's such a fitness aficionado and someone that knows fitness so well, it halves the rate of loss. It's really hard to explain. I think it's a fluid shift. It's like these subtle appetite increases. There's nothing wrong with, you could lose weight at half the rate. That's fine. It just depends on what your goals are. A lot of my clients have 190 pounds to lose, whatever. And so they want to get it done. I have my clients get it done faster so they can go back to their regular life and move on with their life. So it does slow down weight loss. However, it is so important for every other element of health and for long-term health. That is how I shift from weight loss to weight maintenance as I start implementing the fitness regimen. We get back into the gym slowly, methodically, and conscientiously so that you can slip into weight maintenance mode.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I've heard and sort of read about, is that people think exercise is the way to lose weight, where actually it's 90% is down to food rather than exercise.
Diet is the number one cause of early death and disability in the world. This is like scientifically validated at this point. And that is how important, like diet is more important and significant than smoking. And then of course, fitness comes into play for a million reasons. Like you need to move your body, but it is not number one for specifically weight loss.
So what do you think about the sort of the disease, the obesity? I say disease, it's not the right description, but the obesity problem that we've got. I'm in the UK, but you're obviously in the US, but it's spreading across Western Europe. What do you think about that people are making the wrong choices when it comes to eating?
It is such a deep problem. It is. In the US now, we've got close to three quarters of the US population is overweight and obese.
Wow.
Worldwide, it's about 1 in 3. And it's extraordinary to think about. Here's what I think about it. There's a lot of issues surrounding it. It's psychosocial, it's all of that. But here's the big bird's eye picture is that we are biological beings adapted to survive. We are here to survive, to mate and reproduce and survive and raise our offspring. And so what does that mean? That means that when we come across food, especially hyperpalatable food or food that has high calories, we should eat as much of it as possible because we're not necessarily going to come across food again in the near future. However, in our current culture, we have access to food 24/7. We could have anything delivered. I don't know how much it's changed in the UK, but in the last couple of years, you could have any type of food delivered to your doorstep at any time of day. So we have access. There is no time of scarcity anymore. We are living in this time of abundance, and we have not biologically adapted yet to handle that. So, we could bring in all that food, but there's no time for scarcity. Later never comes. We are always bombarded with this food. Add to that So we are human. That's number one.
Mm.
Add to that, that we are tribal beings. Like we, we want to fit in. We socialize over food. That's what my TEDx talk was about. We break bread. It is like, it is normal and fun. We entertain with food. We mourn over food. We celebrate with food. We empathize with food. It is such a deep part of who we are and how we socialize. So anytime you say, no, I'm not hungry, people go, oh, well, and you get this ousted from the tribe, if you will. And even if it's a subtle ousting of the tribe, that's a threat to your survival also. So there's all of that. And then the third component that's all kind of interrelated, is that if you are completely living your life, you are bombarded by food messaging, and the food messaging is never healthful food. It's these, junk food and fast food and fried food and all of that stuff that's constantly in our feeds on social media, constantly on TV, on commercials, constantly everywhere. And so you're having to constantly say no to things that are tempting. Those foods are delicious and decadent, and who doesn't want to eat delicious food all the time, right? It tastes good, it feels good in the moment. We get these dopamine hits in our brain. So we biochemically are like, ooh, this is amazing. Like we want it, and we want it for survival reasons. So we're basically having to shut down temptation, shut down our friends and family that want to eat with us. And it's not easy. It is a very simple idea. We need to eat less, and we need to eat healthy. We need to eat, as close to nature as possible. It is not easy in today's world.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I think it's interesting you were saying about the ancient man who would eat, and they would eat when food was available, and that might not be for a couple of days before the next kill or whatever it was. What's your view on paleo, like the paleo diet of eating like a caveman? Is that actually realistically beneficial for us as a human further developed?
What's so fun about this is that there's so many interpretations of that. And if you look at a real paleo diet, it's nothing like what we're doing now, like paleo chocolate bars and paleo, like ice cream. I mean, it's so hilarious how we've interpreted it now. I would say that a real traditional paleo diet was a diet based on plants, because that's what we had access to as hunter-gatherer, right? Mostly gathering, because how often could you catch an animal? We didn't stick cows into a tight area and breed them for our food. We didn't have control like that. We were nomadic and all of that. But the truth is that no matter what, even if you could argue, because people do argue, oh, but this was paleo and we did have this much meat, whatever, it doesn't even matter. The question that's the most important question is, what can we do now? What is optimal? Now we have centuries since then of data, and we've aggregated data in the lab. We have epidemiological data, we have historical data, we have randomized controlled trials. And what is the optimal way to eat? And we know that we have so many more answers than we did back in the paleo days. And we know that eating more fruits and vegetables is health promoting. We know that limiting saturated fat is health promoting. There's no arguing about that, really. I mean, people try to, but if you really, really tease it apart, it's very clear what we have. Like the only way we have ever actually reversed advanced stage cardiovascular disease, our world's #1 killer, and type 2 diabetes, we've reversed that with a whole food plant-based diet. So, you have to look at the data now and not really go backwards. Like it's fine to have that information, but what can we do to optimize our diet is the question we need to really ask at this day.
And I haven't even covered half the stuff that I wanted to, but it's absolutely fascinating, because now my immediate brain now moves on to, well, what's the role of the benefits of fasting? Because you hear a lot that fasting, if you do a 16-8 diet, that can be really beneficial, not just from losing weight point of view, but health wise as well. What's your thought on fasting?
Oh, Mark, I'm so happy you asked this question. In my latest book, the Choose You Now Diet, and my last book too, I do recommend time-restricted eating. So fasting is extraordinary. There's so much literature about the benefits of fasting. I think it's extraordinary. And the reason is that we have this time, like if we're the normal person, right? now, the typical diet right now is that we wake up, we start with a coffee with sweetener and cream, and then we go to our breakfast, then we have a snack, and then we have a lunch, then we are in the fed state the entire day. But if you look at the literature on having time off of feeding, because by the way, from your last swallow, it's about 4 to 6 hours to complete digestion and absorption. So you are constantly digesting, and absorbing. You're taking time away from all of this important metabolic house cleaning that needs to take place to keep us healthy. So there's incredible immunological benefits, which obviously is on the forefront of all of our minds right now, taking care of our immune systems, right? So giving yourself time to get rid of virus cells and to get rid of bacterial cells and cancer cells that come into our life. Like, we are constantly bombarded by these things. Giving yourself that time off of the fed state so that we can handle all of that load that is bombarding our bodies is crucial. So it's really good to take time off, and that includes the sleep time, right? During sleep, we renew, rejuvenate, repair. Our brains get to recenter, and like, there's all these amazing things that happen when we're not eating and not digesting, not absorbing. So I definitely recommend that. I usually eat 1 or 2 meals a day, and I've never felt better just having that time off. So I have my clients restrict to a certain period of time, a window of time in the fed state. Most of my clients eat 2 meals a day within a 6-hour window. Usually, I like to optimize it for people, but even still, the research is a little bit all over the place in terms of the optimal time. But even taking 12 hours off, which sounds ridiculous because that's only half the day, even taking 12 hours off of the fed state is extraordinarily beneficial. So I'm a big advocate for time restricted eating.
One question that I've got to do with fasting. So one of the things I've been doing is 16/8 fasting, and I've really found actually breakfast is not such a big deal now. It's such a strange thing. I've only been doing it probably 6 weeks. It was like New Year. It wasn't a New Year's resolution, but I thought I would try it. I was reading some literature about it, and I do feel better. I'd like, it's difficult to really put my finger on what it is that how I'm feeling, but I definitely feel better. And I thought that I would be hungry all the time, but one of the things you learn is that hunger's a bit like, so I smoked many years ago, and it's like, you want a cigarette, there's an urge for a cigarette, but if you don't have one, 2 to 4 minutes later you don't want one. And it's a little bit like food while you're fasting, is that you might have a surge of being hungry, but have a cup of tea, have a green tea, have something or some water, and the mindset moves on, and you end up getting absorbed into what you're doing at that time. It's been a really fascinating little experiment that I've been doing with it, and I would say it, as I say, it's a little bit hard to put my finger on why it makes me, but I do feel better.
Okay, well, Mark, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because let me just say, everything about food is habit. Right. Everything. So a lot of us are taught that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but guess what? That started from a marketing scheme way back when. We don't need breakfast. Why would we force ourselves to eat despite even not being hungry? So take that aside. Let's say you are a little bit hungry in the morning because you're used to eating breakfast. And by the way, it's fine to eat breakfast and then lunch. It doesn't matter. I mean, I think there's more benefit, a little bit better if you skew your hours earlier in terms of the fed window, but it doesn't matter if you're not hungry. Most people are not hungry for breakfast. I was never hungry for breakfast. I forced myself. So if you can kind of give yourself that, and I have my clients stick to a regular schedule. So if you eat every day, like I eat every day at 11 a.m. Like, I'm going to be very hungry when we hang up, because it'll be an hour before I eat. My body's like, okay, what are we eating today? I'll be preparing my meal in my mind. Like, my digestive enzymes are getting ready for my big meal of the day. I can't wait. Your body gets used to it. So you can train yourself to be very, very consistent. And that's what I have my clients do, is eat the same time every day so that your body expects it. We're on this gorgeous circadian clock. We are tied into other organisms, the sun, the moon, the lunar. We've got like a monthly tied to our clocks. It's so gorgeous how nature does that, and how we're like intricately intertwined with the world. And so we can teach ourselves to do anything food-wise. And that's why you're feeling better, is that you're giving yourself time to recover and heal and deal with life and the world and all the other stressors. And that ultimately is really health promoting.
I would urge my listeners and watchers on YouTube and on Facebook to really do some research on fasting, because we don't have enough time. I want to talk a little bit about you and what you do as well, but have a read up about fasting and the role of fasting in your life, and the benefits, not just from a weight loss point of view, but the, as you say, like from a cellular level, you really are repairs. It gives you time to recuperate and repair. It's absolutely fascinating, and I think it's going to be a habit that I'm going to keep going forward. So I would say, guys, do some research, have a read up on it. It's definitely an important is something to consider. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about you, right? So you've talked about your books. Your seventh book came out in December 2021. What's the process of writing these books? Do you have someone to help you? Do you have a ghostwriter? Someone didn't like the word ghostwriter and called it an angel writer, which I really like, actually. But how do you do it? Do you find like a certain part of the day that you just spend an hour every day? What's your process of writing books?
Okay. Well, first I have to say, no, I write all my books by myself. I don't have
Right.
any writers. I take pride in that because I'm very passionate about it. And it's so funny because my mother always said, someday you're going to write a book. And I was like, what? Okay, I want to write a book. I don't even know how that all happened, but I remember being in graduate school and I would go with my best friend and we would go to the book Barnes and Noble. We were both in a dietetics program and we would go and sit in front of the diet section and think, what are we going to write that's different? And we were like always kind of contemplate. And I didn't know how it would unfold. But my very first book, I was sitting around working. I found this passion for plant-based nutrition. I had a baby and a toddler. Yeah, they were really young. And an agent found my agent found me. This is in 2010. And she reached out to me and said, we're looking for someone to write the Complete Idiot's Guide to Vegan Nutrition. And would you like to, would you like to do it? And I'm like, yes. I had a website. I was plantbaseddietitian.com way back when. And I had to do a table of contents and a first chapter to submit to the publishers to try to get the job. Well, I was so excited. I'm like, oh, Mom, this is my chance. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this book. And so I did, and I got the job. And I had 2 babies and no help. I didn't even have a babysitter. And I had 6 weeks to write my first book. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Yes. And she threw in at the end, and by the way, 50 recipes. And I went, wait, what? I'm not a chef. I know about physiology. I know about statistics. I know about medicine and medical nutrition therapy. I don't know how to cook. Like, what are you talking about? So I had 6 weeks with the baby, 2 babies, to learn how to cook and write recipes and write a whole book all by myself. It was insane. And I had an editor then, they made me hire an editor because it was my first book. I got it done because I'm a stickler for deadlines. Right. It was insane. I was up at 4 a.m., with lots of tea and coffee, and then my babies would cry and I had to take care of the babies. And then back to, as soon as they were napping, I was hustling, but I did it and I got it done. And I had that book change the title to Plant-Based Nutrition because I didn't want to talk about veganism, because I didn't want to be, I'm a dietitian. I'm not an ethicist. I didn't want to talk about any of that. Wow. And so, so I did it. And so it's evolved over my 8 books. I'm doing my 8th book now, but it's evolved over time where I learned you can't always have the inspiration when you have a deadline. So I've learned that sometimes I just have to sit down. And I was inspired, the guy that, John Robbins, who inspired me to go plant-based from the beginning. I've since, connected with him and had some opportunities to work with him. In fact, I was the executive director of his organization many, many years ago. And we were sitting at an event that we were doing for that organization. And I asked him, how are you so prolific? Because he writes so many books. And he said to me, I'll never forget this. And it always inspires me. He says, those pens, Bic, the BIC pens? I'm like, yeah. He's like, but in a chair. Sit down and just write. And so sometimes brilliant things will pour out. I remember I had a flight to Florida one time and I literally poured out an entire book on my 6-hour flight to Florida from Los Angeles. So sometimes that happens. Most of the time it's okay, so I'll just take a section at a time, or if I'm belaboring something, I'll find something I'm more excited about, or I just start diving into the research. So this last book was my most me book. The last book was my voice and my story and my passion. So it was really easy for me to write, super easy, but it was also 75 more recipes. Again, not a chef. And now I've published hundreds of recipes somehow. I've now fallen in love with cooking, by the way. It's now my happy places to hang out in my kitchen and just start cooking and developing recipes. I don't know how that happened. I guess it's how it happened. So yeah.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And it's inspiring because writing books has always been a sort of blocker for me personally. And And I've like I one of the reasons I started my podcast was because of Tim Ferriss, the 4 Hour Week. And he just said, just literally sit down for an hour every day and just write. Doesn't matter if it's good words, bad words, you just get words down, and that's a starting point. But the other thing that he says is that the editing stage, the sort of review stage of, is the most, it's not the writing that's important, it's whether your own editing or you're asking, he asks a lawyer friend of his to sort of review his books before going through it. That whole editorial phase is so important, isn't it?
It's hellacious. Honestly, I hate editing. I'm so not detail oriented in that way. So I'm grateful to have publishers with copy editors.
Yeah.
But then you have to go through it and go through it and go through it. It's like honestly, by the middle or end of that process, I can't even see the words anymore. Like I'm like, it doesn't look like, you know, like you start to like become like numb to it. It's like, okay, like I don't care. But then I'll tell you this, Mark, when I go back to a book and I find a mistake after it's been through me and a copy editor, I want to die. I'm so angry because I'm such a stickler for, I'm kind of a perfectionist. So yeah, it's brutal. That part's brutal. I like the creative phase. I don't like the technical phase.
Yeah, absolutely. And your TV appearances, Dr. Oz, you've got a wellness talk show. So how did you sort of pivot into television?
Well, again, I started in television. I was an actress. I did a lot of theater, but I did some TV and film way back when I was like teenager and in my 20s. And then I was sitting there minding my own business. I was thinking I gave that up. I was doing some videos, like I was doing some recipe videos and stuff just because I was, you know, trying to teach plant-based and inspire people in all the medium and all the media. And I still do. That's like, I'm real passionate about doing videos and stuff like that, because I think it hits people in a different way, you know, than just reading. So I want to hit all the audiences and help as many people as possible. But I was minding my own business at this point. I had my babies and I was making a big dinner for my family. It was like a holiday dinner, and my phone rang. And it was like a New York area code. And I never answer a phone when I don't know the number, but for some reason I answered the phone, and it was a producer from the Dr. Oz show. And they're like, we want to feature you on a thing. And I'm like, oh my God, it was like that. But everything came together right then. I was jumping. I remember literally jumping up and down because how exciting to be on the Dr. Oz show. That was like a huge show. And I left I went to New York. I got to do a 30 minutes, like 3 segments on his show. And it was incredible. And so I did that 3 times, and then I was asked to be an expert. So I was an expert on these shows, like Steve Harvey's show and a lot of them. I was just coming on as an expert. And then I had the opportunity to do my own wellness talk show series, which honestly, Mark, was the most exciting opportunity in my life, maybe save for my first book. But I got to go to New York for 6 weeks. I missed my baby's first kindergarten day, which I'll always feel horrible about, but this was a good reason. So I got to live in New York, which is my favorite city, one of my favorite cities, for 6 weeks. And they put me up in this little studio. And every day I got to, you know, take the shuttle and go to my studio. And I had the best producer, who's now my producer of my podcast, Sanford. We've had this incredible relationship for, I don't know, it's been like almost 10 years now. And I got to interview my favorite people and do cooking and fitness and beauty and fashion and interview all these local people in New York. But I had people come to me to be interviewed on my show. It was heaven. It was like 6 weeks of the best thing I ever got to participate in.
That sounds so much fun. That sounds so much fun. So as we've talked about, great variety of different things that you've been involved in. The books, the TEDx, you did a TEDx talk. Where did you do the TEDx talk?
Coincidentally, 5 minutes from where I live now. Like it was here in Thousand Oaks and California, and like Los Angeles. It's a suburb of California, of Los Angeles. And I was doing my first book signing for my very first book, and someone came over and handed me an envelope and invited me to do a TEDx talk. And so I didn't really know what it was at the time, to be honest. But it was like my opportunity I felt very naked and raw in this video. And when I was giving the talk, because it was the first time like I said, I tried to avoid talking about the other reasons for eating plant-based, but it was something that was very passionate for me. It's how I started this journey, was for, you know, the animals and the environment, all that stuff. And then it just turned out that it was the healthiest way to eat. So I put that all together in this TEDx talk, and it felt very vulnerable and naked and raw, but it was a very passionate moment for me. And I was really grateful for the opportunity.
Great stuff. So a little bit more business focused for this next section. So who is your ideal client, the people that you work with from a one-to-one basis?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I try to vet my clients as much as possible because I want to help them. I want to make sure there's lots of dietitians out there. There's lots of ideas out there and thoughts out there and people doing different things. And so I try to find the people that I know I could help. So I ask a lot of questions when people inquire about working with me, and I make sure that they are ready. Because what I'm going to teach you, it's not like eat whatever you want. A lot of dietitians will say, oh yeah, you want to do it that way? That's fine. Moderation. I don't believe in moderation. Doesn't really work. And so they have to be ready to make significant changes in their life. Those are the people. And I'll say that with a broad brush, because that encompasses a lot of people. I won't tell someone you have to be vegan. I won't tell people you can eat whatever meat you want. Like, I won't tell people what meat is better. I've got set ideas because the supports it. My clients get results. I mean, I can't even tell you, they lose predictably 0.4 to 0.8 pounds a day of body fat, sometimes more at the beginning. That's usually just water a day. People reverse their chronic conditions like high blood pressure. I had a client, I did a group last month, and they, in 4 weeks, actually it was his first week, he got off of 30 years worth of high blood pressure meds in 1 week. Results are typical. They get off their cholesterol meds. They may be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and reverse the diagnosis where they no longer have diabetes. I help people. I mean, it's not me, it's the science. And so I'm not very wiggle roomy with what the science says. You want to do what you want to do? Great. Go find another dietitian. You want to get healthy and see these extraordinary results? I will hold your hand. I will tell you exactly what you need to do. I'll tell you why, if it's not working exactly as planned, what's going on. I look at their food journals. I get real, and I'm all about accountability, and I'm gonna, because I know what works. And so if you're ready for it, I will love you all the way down. If you're not ready for it, then, I'll give you my blessings to go find someone that will give you what you want.
And you're based in LA, yeah?
I'm based in LA, but I don't really see a lot of people here. I see.
I was
people
just
all
going
over
to say,
the
like,
world.
do you have any, you don't have to know, but do you have famous people? Do you have actors? Do you have,
Sure.
you have people,
Yeah.
they're your clients, aren't they?
Yes, I have celebrity clients. I have elite athlete clients. I do a lot of sports nutrition too. I don't just do weight loss. I have people all over the world. So I mostly see people right here on Zoom or Facebook, whatever. So I have clients everywhere. But yes, I definitely have that LA crowd, but I don't like to disclose that stuff.
No, of course. And I'm not going to push you on
Yeah.
who they are or anything like that. That's private. It's your clients. One of the things you said when I was doing the research is that you've been impressed with the use of technology and using technology for the advantage of I assume, to get into more people through different programs. How are you using technology now?
Well, I should preface that by saying I am not very tech savvy at all. But I do know that way back when I was starting this, well, not 17 years ago, because there really was no internet access like we have now. But, when I was starting as a dietitian and everything, I wanted this to happen. And it was definitely like 15 years ago. I was like trying to get people to meet me here as opposed to me driving. Because when I was a trainer, it was like I spent so many hours going from client to client. And LA, there's so much traffic. And so I was like, it'd be so much more efficient because I don't need to, it's not like not like training, and it's not like a physical therapist where I need to be there and touch you. And this is great. It's a great medium. People weren't ready for this. And I think that's one of the side benefits of what's happened with the quarantine and all of that, is that people now have become open to this. Telehealth and online education has catapulted. And I'm so grateful for that, because now I could reach more people. More people are open to that opportunity. So I'm still navigating which platforms work the best. And I'm doing these different groups online. And so it's like I have all these hiccups all the time. So I'm trying to figure it all out. And but I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to. I have clients in Africa. I have clients in Europe. I have clients in Australia. I mean, it's amazing. And Asia, it's just been amazing.
Sort of random question, but I'm interested in this. Who did you admire in your teenage years?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Definitely John Robbins. I was inspired by a lot of I never follow things. I'm more of a rule breaker. That's why I'm kind of I don't like to follow anyone or anything. Like I always got in trouble with my parents and with school and that kind of thing. So I kind of look to the disruptors as inspiration, very stereotypical types of people, but like, I don't know, there's a lot of people. I'd have to think about it specifics, but it was always things that were kind of off the beaten path and people that thought differently. And of course, like the people like the Steve Jobs and all those people that are just really kind of thinking way ahead and outside. They always inspire me, even to this day. Those are the kind of things that I look to.
Awesome, thank you. What's your future? What's the next 2 to 5 years look like for you?
Such a good question. I need to take more vacation. I haven't done any of that. I work all the time.
None of us have been able to with COVID. None of us have been able to travel at all. But so where would you like to travel to?
True. I definitely want to come back to Europe. There's a million places I want to travel to, but even just like taking some time, some time off and, my kids are older now, so it's kind of good time and I'm in a good place now to kind of shift my ways, but I will never stop this passion for my work. I can't even imagine ever wanting to stop working. I'm always on. I mean, the day I submitted my last manuscript to my editor, I submitted 2 book proposals and she said she's never had an author do that before. She's like, what is wrong with you? And so I'm constantly I'll write another book. I'm actually working on the proposal right now. I will keep doing groups and seeing how that evolves and how I could help the most amount of people. I used to speak and travel around the world to lecture, and all of that has now become online. And so I'm good with that. And, I'm just trying to keep learning and seeing how I could best help my audiences. So it's constantly evolving.
And something else you said that you're entrepreneurial. How, because this is, most of my audience are entrepreneurs or business owners, whether it's small, medium or large. How would you if you were to describe yourself as an entrepreneur, what inspiration are you taking? What's driving you to be entrepreneurial?
Okay, well, I have to be, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
And this is the bad news, good news about this, because it lights my fire. It gets me jumping out of bed in the morning. I am a dietitian, but I'm a vegan, plant-based dietitian. So I don't fit in with my dietitian colleagues. And I focus a lot on weight loss, and a lot of my dietitian colleagues are anti-weight loss. In fact, I get shamed for talking about weight loss, but my passion for this came from me being told I needed to lose weight at 11 years old. And I am all about taking out the guilt and shame about weight and body image, and like empowering people to take that back and to own their body and to decide what weight they want and what they want with their diet. I want to empower people. So I don't fit into any of the dietitians groups. And then in the vegan dietitian group, the vegan group, like I don't fit into a vegan because I also don't like to judge anyone's ethics or morality. Like I want everyone to have their own freedom to decide what they eat and why they eat it. I would never judge anyone for any way of eating. I've taken out all the judgment. So I can't fit into that category either. So I could never be hired at a hospital. My first job was at a hospital, and I quickly realized that was not the place for me, because I'm not going to tell people to eat chicken breast instead of red meat, because I don't believe that's going to help them enough. And so I can't get a regular job. My ex-husband always said, get a real job, get a real job. I'm like, I can't get a real job. Nobody will hire me. I've even tried getting work at an eating disorder clinic, but because I've got this plant-based bias, if you will, I'm not diet agnostic. I can't work there either. Nobody will ever hire me. I will never be a hireable type of person. However, I can transmit massive change with my clients. I can't tell you how many thousands of people. I get emails and messages every day, I'm so grateful, telling them, even people that I haven't worked with directly, that tell me how much I've shifted their thinking and saved their life. Like, I mean, I don't want to say that in a light way, because I feel so grateful that I get to participate in people's lives to that extent, but I will never be hireable. So that said, how do I make a living? I have to be an entrepreneur. What does that mean? I don't know. I never had a business class. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm just throwing stuff out there and testing the waters and seeing how it goes. And if it works, I go more in that direction. If it doesn't work, I shift, and I just keep having to figure it all out.
Julieanne, that is a definition of an entrepreneur. It really is. No, honestly, someone who tests, like, marketing is all about testing. And if it works, you double down on it. If it doesn't work, you put it to the side, maybe come back to it in 6 months' time or a year's time or something like that. And it might be the right fit then. So like, I think that's what you are. I think that's exactly what you are. It's the definition. People define it in lots of different ways, but in what you just said about doubling down on things and doing that is what I define an entrepreneur. So awesome. We all need to stick together, all us entrepreneurs.
Thank you for making me feel better, Mark. That's good to know.
No, and to be honest, you don't always need a business class or a degree in economics or anything like that. Sometimes it can help, but sometimes just going with your gut and going with results that you're getting is what you do. So yeah, I would describe you as an entrepreneur on what you just described.
Good.
Okay, so we coming to the end of the interview. I asked the same 6 questions to all my guests. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. Some people have described them as a little bit thought provoking. So these are all unprepared. I've not forewarned you what these questions are, so they're natural. First question is, what's the best decision that you made?
Wow. To follow my passion no matter what anyone says. And I know that's general, but that's always been what turns out best for me, is to follow my heart.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
These are such good questions. Butt and share. John Robbins, butt and share, just do it.
It's so true. The whole thing of writing books and I actually listen to books and listen to podcasts. I find the listening a lot easier than the reading, but that actual, like, you can read 100 books and learn plenty but not do anything. It's the action orientated part of learning which is what's going to make you be successful. So your sort of the con of big butt in seat is just so important, because you've got to actually do it. You've got to action what you want to action. Just being an academic is great for some people, but you never actually do what you need to do. So it's a really, really, really important lesson. Next question is, who's helped you most in your career?
My friends and colleagues. I have one, my soul mom, Brenda Davis. She's a dietitian, and I call her my soul mom, and she's always there to strengthen my resolve and to guide me and nutritionally, and always gives me the wherewithal to feel confident in what I'm doing.
Amazing. Do you have any regrets?
Lots.
Oh, interesting. Would you like to share one or two of them?
They're mostly in my personal life. I have a lot of regrets in my personal life, but I would say business-wise, you always regret the things that fail, except the things that you fail at are the things that inspire you to do it differently and move forward. So maybe that's not necessarily a regret. But I've made decisions that I'm, about, like, trying new things that didn't necessarily work, that I regretted, but maybe that's what's made the next version better.
Yeah,
so.
And I agree. It's a bit of a it's a question which splits most people. Like I get two answers, and they're both completely valid. The first one is, I'm a sum of all of my decisions that I've made, and bad decisions I've made I've either learned from, or I'm a sum of them, so I don't regret anything. I get that answer a lot. And the other one is, yes, I do. And it might be a personal choice, it might be a business choice, it might be choices, and I'm not asking you to go into anything personal if you don't want to, but I think it is important that we do reflect that some choices that we make in life are not always right for people around us, or sometimes for ourselves. So thank you for sharing that about openness, that you have regrets, and I think it's not a bad thing that you accept them, own them, and then you can then move forward with them. So thank you for sharing that. What are you most proud of? It's going to be your book, isn't it? What are you most proud of?
My books are my babies. Like I put so much heart and soul, especially my last one, the Choose You Now diet. It's everything I've wanted to say my entire life. From that moment, my dance teacher said that to me. And it's a culmination of all my years of not only academia and education and writing and working with my clients. It's everything all put into one book. And so I would have to say that, I think.
You've actually proved your teacher wrong, haven't you? That dance teacher all those years ago. You could proverbially put your finger in the air at him, couldn't you, or her?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope she hears this.
And last question is, what does legacy mean to you?
Oh, wow. Mark, these are incredible questions. Just leaving something that matters behind, putting that dent, that proverbial dent in the universe, something that matters, that helps people. I want to help people. I want to make a difference in people's lives, just a little bit, just at least sharing things. I don't think I've come up with anything, completely unique. I don't think anyone really does. It's just kind of we synthesize information, we gather information, we aggregate it, we put it in through our systems, our brains and our emotions, and then we synthesize newish versions of it or different ways to say it or something.
100%.
And so legacy would be like, I guess, our little version of it that may resonate with our people that we're supposed to attract because of the way it comes out.
And they can be your tribe, can't they? Then that tribe could be your immediate friends or family, but that tribe can equally be, as you say, someone in Africa that you've changed their life with. So just keep what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. It sounds an amazing business, lifestyle, choices. It's been incredibly fascinating speaking to Julieanne. And last question is, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Thank you so much, Mark. I've loved this conversation and I appreciate it very much. You can find me at plantbaseddietitian.com. I'm all over social media, but you can find all of my social media at plantbaseddietitian.com.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Julieanne. It's been absolutely fascinating speaking to you. I've learned things from this conversation as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark.